2.5 quarters, but they did it again. They did.
Well, let me ask you this. I want you to. I'm sure you're going to go off on one particular person, but their season was already done after that game on Friday, the Packer-Philly game, when Barkley went crazy, and your father must have been nuts watching that game.
I can't even listen. We have a long history of heart disease in our family, so I can't even bring the Giants up because he's going to have a heart attack. Like I remember when I was little, like if I get in a fight with my brother, he would throw the kitchen table and he'd throw all the dishes and the whole kitchen table would go flying and I'd have to make a run for it. And I'd be running around the house and he couldn't catch me. And my mother used to yell, "Run outside, he's going to have a heart attack. Run outside, he's going to have a heart attack." Like he was crazy. So now I can't even bring the Giants up because he's just, he's beside himself. But this is the other thing. The season, you're right, the season looked like it was over when Barkley had a great game for Philly. But even before that, the Giants were on Hard Knocks this year, right? On HBO's Hard Knocks. And so I was watching one of the episodes, and they were in the GM's office, Schoen, like I don't know, Joel Schoen or whatever his name is. And they're in his office. He's behind his big desk, and the owner of the Giants, John Mara, is sitting in a chair across from the desk. And I swear, John Mara looks like he was called into the principal's office. He's like he's got this little small presence, and he's sitting there and he's bemoaning the loss of Saquon. He's like, he's telling the GM, "I can't handle it if he signs with Philly. Like, I'm not going to be able to handle it." And the GM's such an idiot. He's going, "Nah, Philly won't have enough money to sign him. They're not going to come up with the money." And then he's bringing up some other team. I don't know who he brought up, some other team. So-and-so might be able to come up with the money. And the Giants offered, I think, Saquon like $7 or $8 million a year. And this Schoen's acting like, "Relax, we got this." The owner of the Giants, he's got it all backwards. Like he's running the show. He hires these guys. He actually lets them run the show. The owner's got to take over.
In that respect, it's like he's got to pull a Jerry Jones. He's got to pull a Jerry Jones. It's like, no. But he should have pulled a Jerry Jones way back before they gave Danny Roll of Pennies the money.
Yeah, the owner, like my description of that scene in the office is right on the money. He looked like he was called into the principal's office. That's not the look you want from an owner. The Giants are just missing everywhere. And so then then their number one pick is Malik Neighbors, who's like the star wide receiver. And that was a good pick. I mean, that was the guy they were supposed to pick. But the Giants have turned into the team that we used to talk about years ago, like the LA Clippers in basketball.
Yep.
When someone got drafted by the Clippers in the first round, like top 2 or 3, that guy's family would start crying. "No, not the Clippers, not the Clippers." Like they would start crying. When Malik Neighbors got drafted by the Giants, I guarantee you his family was in tears. They were crying. They don't want him to go to the Giants, anybody but the Giants, because it's dead endville.
Well, I want you to go in because obviously the crux of this whole issue is, number one, I saw that episode too, and I saw that scene. And I think the GM guy just had him come in because he already knew he was screwed. And he wanted John Mara there just because he wanted him there. Like I think it was almost like he already knew they were going to lose him, and they might lose him to Philly or whatever. And he just wanted him there. So it's like, well, I kind of had a meeting with you and kind of told you. But I remember like a year ago or even longer than that, we were talking about how when Danny Roll of Pennies, they were offering him all this money, and you were saying something about, wait a minute, no, let him go out. Let him go out there. If free agents, let him go out.
Well, that's the thing that we were talking about last year is these owners and GMs, they're afraid to let their quarterback walk because everyone acts like, we know that there's only like 10 or 15 real quarterbacks. Like we know that, even the kid that was drafted by the Bears, he looked terrible. He threw for 93 yards. Like he's supposed to be the next Mahomes. I love it when they do that. "Oh yeah, we got the next Patrick Mahomes." No, you don't. You got a rookie quarterback who threw for 93 yards. So all these GMs, they're just afraid to let, Danny Dimes or Pennies or Dak Prescott or, they're afraid to let Tua. They're afraid to let these guys go, and at some point you got to be like, look, the guy's not good enough. I understand that there's nothing out there, but what we got isn't good enough either. So, you're paying you're paying pennies like $40 million a year, but this is the last year. Like he doesn't have any more guaranteed money in his contract, so he's gone after this year.
Yeah.
But that's just the problem. Is everyone runs these football teams out of fear? Oh, I'm afraid if I lose this guy, I won't get anyone else. You can't do that. Go get it. Just get rid of the bum and then go find a guy. You can't be always afraid that you're not going to find, that you're going to be stuck with Ryan Tannehill or Kirk Cousins, because those guys stink too. All the quarterbacks stink, by the way. Like they're all no good.
Yeah, it is amazing. The especially from the first string guys down to the backup, the drop off's huge. But let me ask you. So you're right. The guaranteed money is going to go away. So should they have drafted a quarterback though this year too, and then look into next year? But next year, I think the quarterbacks is thinner.
Well, I don't think it is. They say it is, but I watched some of the early college games, and there's 4 or 5 guys.
Okay.
C.J. Stroud didn't look like he was going to be a can't miss when he was in college. He was good for Ohio State.
Yeah.
Has Ohio State ever produced a good quarterback? Never.
Art Schlichter.
So nobody.
Right? Art Schlichter, the gambler.
Yeah, his career lasted 4 games.
Yeah.
He owed the mob. He owed the mob money.
He was good though in college at Ohio State. The guy was great. So what do you think the crux of this issue is with the Giants? Obviously, they gave the wrong guy money, it looks like, but do you just think it's kind of the handling of it? Is that really the thing you want to go off on, is the handling of it?
The crux with the Giants is it's John Mara. Like, I can't say that to my father. He goes nuts. It's John Mara. He doesn't get the right people in place, and he doesn't know how to manage his front office. This is like the 3rd front office coaching, combo that he's gone through in the last 7 or 8 years. He keeps hiring, he hired Gettleman, and then, he hired someone else. He keeps hiring these front office guys, and they stink, they don't draft well. They don't, extend the right guys. And, it's got to be the front office. And they get Dable. I don't know. I mean, how bad of a job did Brian Dable do this week? Listen, the Vikings are your team. The Vikings are very, very good, right?
Well,
they look very good. They had Sam Darnold. I think he threw he was 75% completion rate, right?
Well,
remember Darnold was seeing ghosts for the Jets. Remember he said,
yeah, of course. And for the Panthers, he was seeing ghosts all the time. It's funny how you get a little offensive line and some weapons in there, and you see the pure talent that he really does. I think at one point it was 14 for 14 or something. It was crazy. And I think the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy was a bad thing that happened, but he'll come back next year. But Darnold, it seems like, I know he was always talented. We were, West Coast guys when we were living West Coast. I always thought that guy was really good. USC's always got pretty good quarterbacks. And I just think he just didn't have the right opportunities at the Jets or Carolina. So now he's there. I think the coach is good. I think he likes the coach. I think that's a big deal. And he's got the players. And then I think the Vikings too, they showed you Flores, that Brian Flores he's a genius, that freaking guy. And the Vikings, I don't know if they have better personnel this year than last year. Defense, some people would say, well, they did add some good guys, but they got rid of some guys that were dominant like Daniel Hunter. But I think that Flores, man, they want to play for him. I think that's always a huge thing.
Well, that's the guy you're talking about. Yeah, no, he's a great defensive coordinator. He's one of those guys, terrible head coach, great defensive coordinator.
Like Mike Zimmer.
Zimmer, yeah, that's the other thing. That's a great segue into the Cowboys. I love the way the Cowboys are set up, because all season long or all off season, we watch ESPN, whatever, First Take or the Greeny Show or whatever, Get Up show. They hate the Cowboys. Like ESPN, they hate the Cowboys and they hate Jerry Jones. Yeah. It's laughable. I understand. The Cowboys stunk in their last game. It was embarrassing. But they just kill. They kill the Cowboys all off season. The last thing they were killing them about was somehow they came up with this statistic where they say that the Cowboys and Jerry Jones have the lowest cash spending out of all the owners. Jesus, who cares? They come up with all these stats. The salary cap is the salary cap. The Cowboys are always up against the salary cap.
Yeah.
They say, oh, he waits too long to sign his players. He's not waiting too long. The players know that the longer they wait, they're not signing.
Yeah.
The agents are telling Jones, the owners, hey, look, we're not signing right now. And Jones isn't throwing them under the bus. That's what's happening. He's not coming out and saying, hey, look, we're trying to get Dak signed, but his agent is saying no. He doesn't do that. He keeps his mouth shut.
Because he knows business. He's a businessman. He understands business, that guy.
Yeah, he says a bunch of stupid stuff. Like most of the time he talks like he's a presidential candidate. He says stuff and you're like, what are you talking about? Like he's an idiot. But
ESPN, idiot.
ESPN hates him. So I'm watching like the predictions before the first week, and everybody on ESPN says the Cowboys are going to get dominated by Cleveland.
Oh, yeah.
That Orlovsky goes through the Cowboys lineup, and he says they lost a center to Washington, signed for a $20 million contract. They lost 2 defensive ends to this team. They signed for $8 million and $12 million. He rattles down all their losses from the last season, right? All their players that they lost, like 6 or 7 guys. They lost a running back to Tennessee. He rattles all their losses down. And then he says they're not going to be nearly as good. But when they had all those guys last year, he said they stunk. So make up your mind. Did they stink with the guys, or are they going to stink without the guys?
You know what it is? It's always like, people always complain that people talk about the news guys and the sports places, the networks, they talk about the Lakers all the time, good or bad. The Lakers are always going to be talked about. The Cowboys are always going to get talked about. It's just the way it is. But the franchise is iconic. It's always going to get talked about. And
I'm laughing at how they're talked about. I know.
I know.
I'm just how they're talked about is hilarious.
No,
it's like
they're always talked. Yeah, they talked about like they're like terrible, like Carolina. It's like no.
So now they beat Cleveland.
They crushed them.
All the shows, like I watch like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. I'm not like I just watch a few minutes here. But every time I turn it on or I see it on YouTube, they're saying, well, Cleveland is Deshaun Watson is a piece of garbage. The Cowboys didn't have a very impressive win. It's like, okay, they weren't going to win the game. You said they weren't going to win the game in the first place. So then they win the game, and you said it's not impressive. And now they're predicting the game coming up. And everything on Get Up, all those guys like Orlovsky and Chris Clancy and Foxworth, all these guys are saying, well, New Orleans has a new OC, Clint Kubiak, who comes from the Kyle Shanahan tree. They play against that guy, so they're going to have a big trouble against New Orleans. Probably. I mean, who knows? I mean, the Cowboys aren't that good, but it just cracks me up the way they're talked about. It's like we don't even know. Like if we watch all the ESPN shows, we wouldn't even know what the Cowboys are. Like you got to just watch them on your own.
Well, and the thing is, too, like maybe Deshaun Watson, like he's been hyped and he's gotten money and he hasn't really done anything. He's another one. And, like the best thing he's ever done is like, he's second to Brett Favre in getting the massage therapist and with the towel and stuff. Like he should just make towels. He should make towels like with a hole in it. Like the guy's crazy. But the thing is, like maybe the Cowboys, just their defense is good. Maybe Mike Zimmer coming in helped get that defense going a little bit. Maybe they just stopped Deshaun Watson. Like, what's wrong with that? Like, again, so now it's that Deshaun Watson didn't have a good game and this, and that's why they win. Maybe it's more Dallas, what Dallas did, and not what Cleveland didn't do.
And we're going to find out in the next couple of weeks. Like Cleveland goes to Jacksonville. They play the Jaguars. The Jaguars had a bad loss opening game. Okay, so we see what Cleveland does this coming week.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. It's like, we see what happens in the second game, and so New Orleans, they killed Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
Right. So now we watch watch New Orleans the second game against Dallas.
We'll see.
So, the second or third week tells you a little more.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I guess, ESPN, they have to do this. They have to
sure.
out, emphatically and say, they're not that good. They're not going anywhere. I guess they have to do that. But after week one, there's no answer yet. There's no way that you can tell me who's good and who's bad yet. Yeah,
you can't write the script yet.
No.
You don't have all the scenes. You can't write the script yet. So let's move on. Like, we did Danny roll the pennies. We did the Cowboys. I'm glad you talked about the Cowboys because I was really impressed with that game because Cleveland still is a pretty good team. And then what's your last thought? You got another thought that you're just like after that week, like crazy about, like just, oh my God.
Well, I mean, the Raiders, Raiders are another team. I mean, we're here, we're in Vegas. We'd like to root for the Raiders, you like to have, but they're terrible.
Oh.
That performance was so bad. Gardner Minshew is like another quarterback that he's not a starting level quarterback. The Raiders, they actually did do what I said. They got rid of Derek Carr. Remember I just said earlier, you can't be afraid to get rid of your guy if you don't think he's the guy. And they did get rid of the guy, but they didn't get anybody to replace him. They drafted Aiden O'Connell from Purdue last year. He's like a mid-round guy. He doesn't look like the guy. He didn't start this year. They bring in Minshew. We watched Minshew in the preseason. He stunk in the preseason. He's not good. I don't get why he just keeps bouncing around and keeps playing. Minshew is a perfect example of how there's just no quarterbacks. There's not enough quarterbacks to go around.
No, well, let me ask you this, because they did play like crap, the Raiders. He had some decent stats, the QB. But so let's talk about this. They drafted a tight end. Like, they drafted that kid out of Georgia. Why did they draft a quarterback?
Well, they did what Matt Millen did for the Detroit Lions back in the 90s or whatever. He drafted a wide receiver in the first round 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
No. So why didn't they? Where were they? 8, 9? They were above the Vikings, right? In the draft, they were.
I think they drafted Brock Bowers, but they drafted Michael Mayer last year from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It's not bad that they drafted a tight end, but they drafted a tight end in the first round 2 years in a row. Like, why did you do that?
That's what I mean. Like, they were like, where were they in the draft last year? 8, 9.
I think they were top 10. Yeah.
Like 8, maybe. Yeah. Like, again, like the Vikings had to move up one pick with the Jets just to get, J.J. McCarthy, and then Bo Nix went to Denver because I think the Vikings were worried that, if they didn't do that, then Denver was going to jump them and get McCarthy. So the Raiders were there. Yeah, I think Bowers was the 8th or the 7th pick. Like, why didn't they take either McCarthy or Nix or, because I think I'm trying to remember, was Penix gone already?
Well, Penix went to Atlanta. Yeah, Atlanta pulled Penix off the board early. They pulled him off at 8, I think.
Yeah, so where were the Raiders, at 9?
Yeah, they were right around there, but I don't think the Raiders identified any of these guys. I don't think they wanted these guys. Like,
I think the Raiders were 7.
Yeah.
So they could have taken Penix. I mean, Al Davis would have loved to take Penix. Al Davis would have been, look that up, Al Davis would have been, God almighty, give me that guy with the big arm. He would have loved Penix. Like, indoors, like, that's like a perfect pick for them.
Yeah.
with Devontae Adams, and then worry about the tight end later. So now they got Minshew and that other dude from Purdue trying to now throw to Bowers. Well, that's not going to work. Like, in college, it would work.
They drafted 13. They drafted 13.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so
I guess I'll give them a pass, but then again, they could have moved up. Again, I don't understand what they're doing. So they're committed that next year they got to draft a quarterback immediately.
Either that, or maybe they were waiting for Dak Prescott to walk as a free agent, or maybe they're looking to get someone. I don't know. I mean, but the Raiders don't have a good plan. The other thing the Raiders are doing is they drafted this Tyree Wilson last year, like 7, the defensive end, the edge rusher from Texas Tech. He's done nothing, like 0.
Yeah.
And they miss on too many draft picks. When Gruden was there with that Mayock, the GM Mayock, they missed.
Oh, that guy was terrible.
Remember that guy? He was a
Mayock, and he keeps getting jobs like on networks. That guy.
If they put you and I in charge of the draft, I swear to God, the Raiders would have 10 extra players on their team right now over the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, Mayock drafted the cornerbacks that were. Even this guy Travis Morig or Trayvon Morig, the safety they got from TCU or whatever, they drafted him high. I watched the game last week with the Chargers, and J.K. Dobbins, who gets injured every year.
Yeah, he was a Raven, right? He played on Baltimore.
He kept getting injured, so he's healthy now. He breaks through the line, and the safety comes up to tackle him. I think it was Morig. The safety comes up to tackle him. It was the worst attempted tackle I've ever seen. Like, he just tackled air, and J.K. Dobbins isn't even like some quick guy. He just put a move on him, went around him, and went like 60 yards. The Raiders can't draft.
And like you said, it's hard to watch it. Like, I was watching that game, it's hard to watch them because I'm going to tell you a big thing that happened that, if we don't see your buddy Falcone this week, we'll see him next week and talk more about the Raiders. He's a huge Raider fan from Vegas. But I'm going to tell you the biggest part of that game, the mistake that the coach made. I like the coach. He's a nice coach. I know the players like him and stuff. They had the ball. They're down by 6. It's 16-10. It's about 2:50 left or maybe low 3 minutes, something, whatever. And they were near midfield, and it was 4th and like 2 or 3. And he punted it. And I'm like, what do you do? And you're punting it, and they're up by 6. They're going to eat the clock. You're going to use, I think he had 2 timeouts left. You're going to use your timeouts, and you might not even get the ball back. And what happened was he punted it, and the Chargers got it. The Chargers scored again. Yeah, and that was it. I think that was I don't understand what his logic was there. That it's like we're going to punt it.
Buddy, you can read his logic. He didn't have confidence in his offense. Like, you don't have confidence.
Yeah,
you have confidence to get that 2 yards. And you got Brock Bowers, you got Michael Mayer, you got the 2 first-round tight ends, you got Devontae Adams, you got Jacoby Myers. There's weapons on that team. They don't have a running back. They let Jacobs go. So they don't have a running back. But they got the guy from the Vikings, Madison. He jumped over a guy.
Yeah, but he runs a yard and falls down. Gets But he's all right. But he's not that good. I just think I get what you're saying. He has no confidence, because that, to me, that was the play of the game. It's like, you got to go for it. If you don't make it, you don't make it. You still need 7. You got to get a TD. You're right here now. You might not get it again. I was like, wow, that shows you what confidence he has, that this team is not good. So can they go get someone like Tannehill, or I don't know?
Well, I mean,
who's out there?
Is Tannehill better than Minshew? In fact, Tua.
Maybe.
Now. I mean, Tua got crushed again last night. He ran into the guy's knee, so he's out. He's not going to come back anytime soon. So the Dolphins are going to start Skylar Thompson, the kid from Kansas State. The Dolphins are talking about possibly going to get Tannehill, but Tannehill's not any good. Tannehill's not going to do anything for anybody. He's the same. Tannehill's the same as Minshew, as Danny Pennies, Kirk Cousins. They're all the same.
They're all the same, huh?
All the bad quarterbacks are the same.
They're all. It's weird, but you're right. They're all the same. It's kind of crazy, but they do need to go try to pick someone up, or they just say, forget it. Our season's done. And we'll draft next year. But I want one more thing I want to ask you before we get to we got a special guest today. We got a special guest for Bless Our Bets. And before we get to Bless Our Bets, I wanted to say, like, real quick, I wanted you just to name like 3 or 4 or 5, like the worst of the worst teams week 1. Like, you could just say these guys stink. Like, just go ahead, because they're probably going to be the same as me. Like, it just was absolutely atrocious.
It's easy, though. I mean, the Giants, right? The Panthers, the Raiders. We've already talked about them, like, unintentionally.
Yeah.
I guess the crappy teams, they draw your attention because you can't imagine a team preparing for 6 months for opening day in September and coming out like that. Like, you just can't.
Yeah, and then I think some of them, the overhyped teams like Miami, even before Tua's injury, I was watching them. I'm like, this is the same old story I've seen before in South Beach. This is the same thing. And I knew Buffalo's got their number, but I was like, this is the same thing. Cleveland's another one. It's like, yeah, same thing. Like, like I'm watching these guys, and then even my ex Viking, like the Falcons, watching Kirk Cousins, I was happy. I'm like, goodbye.
They were terrible.
Terrible.
That's the other thing is, like, it's the Steelers are kind of like the Cowboys. Do the Steelers have this great defense? The Steelers, supposed to have a great defense. They usually have a good D. Or is Kirk Cousins and that Bijan Robinson was slow. Like, he was slow. I was watching him. They were getting him the ball in the flat. He wasn't making anybody miss.
One last thing I'll close on my Vikings is it made me happy because I knew that they would never work out with Cousins. They'd win games and then maybe win one playoff game and they'd have no money. And I watched them and I'm like, and I know he's got the Achilles now, but he still looks the same as he always did. He always has weapons, and he always gets stats, but it doesn't equal wins ever. Like, he'll get stats with Atlanta, but I watch that. I'm like, well, where are all these weapons? What's all this thing he's supposed to be doing like he did on the Vikings? And I'm like, okay, it's week 1, and he just got back from an Achilles, but it's going to be the same story with them. They'll win like 8 games, 9 games.
Who's that? The Vikings?
Yeah, no, Atlanta. He'll get 4,500 yards. Some stupid.
I don't. Off the first game, I don't see that. They played Philadelphia this week, Monday Night Football, I think, in Philly. Well,
yeah,
Philly should pull out. Philly's going to kill them, right?
Yeah.
No,
Philly's going to crush them. And I wasn't really impressed, obviously, with the Jets. San Fran's great. San Fran's great, and the Vikings got a tough game against San Fran. It's going to really show a lot about them. But the Jets were, again, it's like you're overrated. This is like nonsense.
Well, the Jets' defense is overrated. San Fran had the backup running back.
Yeah.
50 yards.
But it's like funny, like the Jets, like you were talking about how these people talk about the Cowboys, they stink, and this and this and this. People talk about the Jets like they're like the Bears, the 84, 85 Bears. It's like, look at
them to make the playoffs. I don't know why they keep picking them to make the playoffs every year. They say, they got Brees Hall, they got Garrett Wilson, they got this, that, and the other. They were terrible.
They got pushed around and run over, and then their offense, that Jets offense is baloney. It's nothing. There's nothing on that offense.
And Aaron Rodgers looked the same as Cousins. You come back from an Achilles tear. You come back from an Achilles tear at 25 or 26, it's going to take you a couple years. You come back from an Achilles tear at 40 or 36 or whatever Cousins is, you're not coming back. You're not going to. You're not going to have that. You're not going to move like you did. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers already was slowing down, but I saw him in the pocket. When he went back to pass, he wasn't going to move.
No.
Like if the 49ers defense moved him off of his spot, there's trouble. Like he's not going to be able to move and sling it like he used to.
And if you watched if you watch Cousins, he was not pushing off.
He was terrible. You're right. You're right.
He was terrified. He was, and I understand that because I severed my Achilles. I didn't just rupture it. And the feeling to push off of it, even though you rehab and all that, like you're scared to push off of it. You're really scared. It's tender. All right, so that's a good Tommy T. What's on the mind of Tommy T? That was great. Like we went at it. And we covered a lot of things. I love it when you bring in the other networks in there, too, because we watch all those guys. The only network, the only show I never have anything bad to say about is our uncles, PTI. I never got anything bad to say about those guys.
Because those guys, they're not playing the same, like, instrument. They're not playing the same song. Like they'll, like when they cover teams like the Jets or when they cover the Cowboys, they say, like, the Cowboys, they're terrible in the playoffs every year. They got to win in the playoffs to shut people up. They say that. But they don't just come out and go, hey, listen, you were terrible last year. You got rid of 7 players, so you're going to be terrible this year. Like, it doesn't add up.
Yeah, no, I know. I get you. Okay, let's transition. We'll bring in our special guest, and we'll go to Bless Our Bets. And I'll go through a few games that I want us to pick. We can pick the side or pick the total, and then if you want to throw one in at the end, okay? And hopefully our guest will anoint these things to win the big money. It's all about the money. So let me. Oh, wait a minute. There he is. Were you drinking wine? Like wine from the church, or what was that?
I'm drinking holy water. Forget about it.
So my God, so Tommy, I'll intro him. So Tommy and I, obviously, this is our used to be called our bookie beatdown bets, and now we're going to call Bless Our Bets because we're looking at this like we need as many advantages as possible to be guys that are experts, like the so-called experts. So Tommy and I, we don't want to talk to the experts anymore, the betting experts who are like maybe 50%, because Tommy and I are striving to be over 50% and make money, and then we can make maybe donations to people that help us, like our guest today. So we were thinking, Tommy and I, we grew up Italian. We're Italian. I'm Irish Italian. Tommy's full Italian. We grew up with Catholics. The whole town was Irish, Polish, and Italian and Catholic. And so Tommy and I were talking one day. We got to get like someone that could maybe help, like something like that's like weird, like organic, like a higher power. So Tommy said, well, wait a minute. One of the guys from the neighborhood knows this guy. And right, Tommy, and then he told you to call.
Because this is Father Tony. Like we grew up, Father Tony was in our neighborhood, and we were tutored by Monsignor Cicerelli.
Yeah.
He was the priest in our parish. He scared the hell out of me. I remember I went for my first Holy Confession, and he literally scared the hell out of me. Like, you're 10 years old. You're 10 years old for your first confession. I mean, what are you confessing? You got to make up sins when you're 10 years old.
I stole a piece of candy.
I'm 10 years old. I don't even know what I did yet.
Yeah, well,
right.
It's good to see you again.
So I went to a rival church. I didn't go to Father Tony's church, but I know of Father Tony, and Tommy. I know he's from.
Yeah, but Barry, you had to go to St. Paul's because you lived across the street from St. Paul's, right?
Yeah, so I required to go. And sometimes when I would go, my mom would make me go Saturdays to the Saturday 5:15 Mass. And there was our window from our living room. You could see the side door of the church. And so I would go in. She'd watch me. I'd go in and, excuse me, Father, for this, maybe this is like a confession I'm doing here. And I would go in and I'd get the missalette because it had the date on it. And then I'd walk out the other side door. And I'd go through this field to my friend who lived over in the neighborhood, Jimmy Wolf, and I'd sit there and watch TV and hang out. And then when the Mass would be over, I'd come back and I'd go back through the field and back through that side door. And then my mom would see me come out the side door after Mass. And I had the missalette. That was like my thing. Like she goes, oh, so how'd it go today? Did you like? I go, it was fantastic. Yeah. And I go, here's I got the missalette, and I did that for a long time. And I think one of my brothers told me.
In our neighborhood, Barry, and Father Tony in our neighborhood before he was a father, we used to the missalette. We did the same thing, but they used to have the Jewish kids in the corner selling us the missalets, like 5 cents. That they were already making a profit off that. That's how we.
It never made it to the collection plate. No,
it never got yet. And so we're hoping you could help us in a way that's legal, and we could give like money to the collection plate, like a donation, because right now, we're not making anything. So we figure if we call you, and when Tom first mentioned you, I knew another guy, but as a nickname, we called him Father Tony Cappellini. But you're not Cappellini. You're
Scarpellini.
That's kind of like a pasta. Is that a pasta? Is that like an angel hair, a Cappellini?
It should be. It's a cross between it's a cross between Cappellini and Cavatelli's.
Yeah, like in the middle there, because do people ever get it mixed up? Like they do people call you? Like I always mess up names. Tommy will tell you. And when I first read it, I said, "Oh, it's Father Tony Cappellini." Like,
hey, Father Tony, is your microphone turned loud? I can barely hear you.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Can you hear him? Okay, Barry D.
Yeah.
I think I can hear him. I know God can hear him.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all that counts. And this thing is God hears him.
We're gonna throw a couple picks of you, Barry D. I got some locks this week.
All right, so here we go. Bless our bets, Tommy T. What's the first one you would like to throw by Father Tony?
I like New Orleans is getting 6.5 against the Cowboys in Dallas. I think that game's going down to the buzzer beater. So I like New Orleans plus 6.5. New Orleans scored 47 opening week against Carolina. And, I don't think that Carolina is going to be that bad. I think New Orleans is going to come back out and play another good game. So that's my first pick. And then the other pick I like is, we didn't talk about it, but the surprise of week 1 was New England going into Cincinnati and beating a playoff team, the Bengals. Like, how do they do that? Like New England won their first game after the Bill Belichick era. Belichick's gone. Brady was gone a few years ago. They got Gerard Mayo and they got Jacoby Brissett, Jacoby Brissett, right, as a quarterback. So now New England's home. They're playing Seattle, and this is a game of 2 rookie coaches. This is Seattle's got that new coach Mike McDonald, the defensive whiz, and then New England's got Gerard Mayo, right, Mayonnaise, right. They got Gerard Mayonnaise, also a defensive coach. So I think that New England's getting 3 points at home. I like New England. So I like New England plus the points. I like I like New Orleans plus the points, right? So those are my 2 locks of the week.
Yeah, I like the New England because they're getting 3.5, but really that's I don't know how much Father Tony knows about football. I know he knows about God, but that's really 6.5 points because they're home. So you're right because they usually they're favored by 3 at home.
Oh yeah. I see your reason.
So they're getting. I mean, it's really a bigger line, even though it's not a bigger line, and I think the Saints Cowboys is a good one too, Tommy. That's a good one because I think they'll be scoring in that. And I think they'll stay within a touchdown. They might get a garbage score at the end.
It's one of those games where, Father Tony, we don't like to bet a lot of money because the anxiety gets you. Like, that's one of those games where the Cowboys are 6.5 favorite. Now, they could be up by, say, 13 points late in the game. The game's essentially over, right? I mean, they won the game. But what happens is New Orleans gets the ball, and, there's a minute left on the clock. The Cowboys are playing all their backups. New Orleans is driving down the field to get a garbage touchdown that's not really going to affect the game, but that garbage touchdown is where the whole bet is, right? Like they scored at 7 points. All of a sudden, now you win by 6 or 5.5, 5 points. And now all of a sudden, so the game's over, but you can't even relax. The last 3 minutes of the game, you got to be like, oh, what's going on here? The Cowboys got their 4th string cornerback in, and I got to worry about my bet. So that's why anyone who's betting these games and living and dying with these bets, I mean, go see Father Tony, right? And just so he can give you a couple of, in the name of the, so.
Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. There you go. There you go.
So does that mean, Father Tony, are you blessing Tom's bet with the Patriots plus the points?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And do you know about the Patriots?
Yeah,
he knows about Dan Marino. What do you mean he knows? He hasn't followed football since Danny, the Italian stallion, was quarterbacking, right, Father Tony?
That's it. Yeah, let's talk about him.
That's it.
They're in New England, right?
Yeah, which is Boston, which is Boston.
They changed their helmet a couple times, right?
Yeah.
What do you guys?
Now this is something that I know. Father Tony's a very bright guy. Father Tony, what states constitute the New England region? What are the states?
The ones up north. I'm from New York, all right? I'm from New York, all right? I don't mess. I don't go out of state too much, all right? I have no use for that, all right? What do you guys want me here for? You want me to bless bets, or do you guys want to do a geography lesson?
That's a valid point. No, we want you to bless bets.
I got mass. I want
you to show off your knowledge of the region.
Is that what you want me here for? You want me to say
no.
Not really. I need you to bless the bets.
All right, so let's cut to this one. I think Father Tony really will like your other bet because it's the Saints. I mean, you can't not like the Saints bet.
Going with the Saints.
It's the Saints.
That's New Orleans, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going with the Saints.
Who's your Father Tony? Who's your favorite Saint?
Saint Vincent de Paul.
I mean on the team, on the New Orleans Saint football team.
Give me a break, right?
He's talking about one of the apostles.
Yeah, I know. I'm not talking about the apostles. I want to do you remember back in the day, like Archie Manning, or no?
Yeah.
We got that.
Here's what I know. Listen, you guys. Why did you want me here? All right. You guys. What do you want me to tell you? All right. Here's what I know about the Saints. They're from New Orleans, and something about who dat or something. Am I here to bless bets, or am I here to
No. You're
here for a quiz? What is it you guys want me here for? All right, I got mass about a half hour. Right, I got.
Oh boy!
I'm glad that you were in a good spirits.
Yeah, and we don't want you to miss mass. So, Tommy, you got any other bets? You got the Saints plus the points.
Those are my 2 big picks this week. My other bet, believe it or not, you're not going to like this bet, but I'm going to stick with the home team. I like Denver is getting 2.5 at home against Pittsburgh and Justin Fields. I think that it's the first home game for Denver, and I'm hoping that Bo Nix has a little better showing. And then also it's going to be easier for Denver because their first game was up in Seattle, 12th man, very difficult place to play up in Seattle.
Yeah.
That is Denver, very difficult place for Denver. For the visiting teams to come into Denver, right? So these are my teams, Father Tony. I like Denver plus the points. I like New England plus the points.
Denver versus who?
Denver versus the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a big Catholic community, right, Father Tony? Pittsburgh, very big Catholic community, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not going to ask you where Pittsburgh is. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but there's a lot of good quarterbacks from Pittsburgh area too.
Well, the Western Michigan area. Listen, Father, a lot of Italians.
A lot of Italians.
Right?
Listen, Tommy.
We got Joe Montana, right? We got Joe Namath. Joe Namath's not an Italian, but we adopted him.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Namath, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Johnny Unitas.
So we got Denver and Pittsburgh.
Right?
Yeah.
Johnny Unitas. So Denver Broncos are playing. They're playing at home and they're getting points. So, Father Tony, I thought you already knew this, but I'll go over it. So, like when a team is home, usually they're favored because they have home crowd advantage. And usually it's 3 points is the starting line that they're giving up. So Tommy, being the savant he is and the expert at this and knowing how to do this since he was a kid looking at the paper, if you look at his picks, he's picking the home underdog, which really is a good move because that line of the Broncos is 2.5. They're getting 2.5 at home, which I said before is really 5.5 because you add in the 3 points that they're usually favored. So Tommy's doing that with 2 of his bets here, which is pretty interesting. And it's and also, Father Tony, you got to have a lot of balls to do that.
Right.
You know about that.
Yeah. Listen, all this jargon, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. All right. I'm. You know what? You're telling me about these points and this touchdowns and this that. All right. Listen. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. I just blessed your bet. All right. Bippity boppity boo.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to go quickly. Mine are.
Bippity boop. Okay. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father Tony.
Yeah, thank you for those. So, okay, so Tommy's got the Broncos plus the points. He's got the Saints plus the points, and he has.
We go with points.
And what was the other one, Tommy? You had
New Orleans, New England, and Denver.
All plus the points. And now I'm going to do over-unders, Father Tony. And over-unders is the total points at the end of the game of the 2 teams combined.
He doesn't care about jargon. He just said that's jargon. Right? That's jargon.
Well, I'm trying to make a relationship with him so he can keep coming on the show and keep blessing the bets so we can.
I understand, but what if I started talking Latin to you guys? What would you guys do?
Yeah.
That's what you're doing to me right now. All right, just tell me your bets.
All right, my bets and my bets are this. I'm going to take the Falcons and the Eagles Monday night over. The over there's 47.5. And Father Tony, you gotta buy the hook.
Buy the hook.
Yeah, so I'm going to really make the bet at 47.
He likes to move the line, Father Tony. He likes to move the line.
Right.
Yeah. It's like So, and then I'm going to do that one, and then I'm going to take where'd that other guy go? Rams Cardinals over. That's also 47.5, and I'm going to buy the hook. As they say back in the neighborhood, I'm going to make it 47. Yeah. And I'm not going to explain that to you because you don't care, and I know the man above doesn't care. And then I'm going to take the Buccaneers and the Lions also over. And that one is 51.5, and I'll buy the hook on that and make that 51. So those are my 3 over bets. Those are locks, too. The Lions, Bucks over, and the Eagles and the Falcons over, and the Rams, Cardinals over. And then Tommy has the Patriots plus the points, the Saints plus the points, and the Broncos plus the points. And Father Tony Capolini, what we do, we call that
Scarpolini.
Oh, okay.
Not with us anymore.
I got pasta on my mind. I love that angel hair, and people call it angel hair. I get really mad about that, Father Tony, when they're lazy and they call it angel hair, and I say call it Capolini. Come on, what are you doing? You got to call it the right name. Right. So we got 6 bets here. I got 3 overs. Tommy's got 3 teams plus the points, and we call that our senior 6-pack.
Okay, and are you putting money down on this, or is these just picks?
We're betting.
We're telling all the listeners to put money down. Go bet the house.
Go bet.
Yeah.
Go
And,
bet
and Tom used to tell people don't bet the house.
this
But
year-
now with you here, he's confident that they can bet the house.
Listen,
Just
with
do the
you
right
here,
thing
you
with
change
the money.
everything.
Do the right thing with the money, right? You know, do the right thing.
You mean when I win it?
Give a little back to the church.
But let me ask you something, Father. It's tithe, right? It's tithe. It's TITHE. Is that the word?
Tithing.
It's a stupid
tithe.
word. Is that a
You
stupid
like-
word or what?
Just say, how about give?
Tithe.
Give. Do you like give?
Yeah, that's better. Why do you got to come up with tithing? Why can't you
Yeah.
say?
I don't
So-
say. I just say like your
So-
wallet.
So, Father Tony, have you ever watched the movie Rudy?
Yeah, I've seen Rudy. Yeah, Notre Dame. Forget about
Yeah,
it.
you like that because it's Notre Dame, Catholic school, Golden Domer. So you like that story. Did you ever play sports when you were a kid before you took up the priesthood?
I play a little baseball. That's about it.
Okay. What were you, right fielder?
Listen,
Right.
Barry, we got to let Father Tony go. You don't have all
No,
day.
no,
I was right in, right out, man.
Father Tony, did you ever hear about a guy that ran for 4 touchdowns in one game that played at Polk High?
No.
No? All right. And
What movie is that?
Polk High, Polk, and he sold shoes as a living.
Ooh, Polk High.
Al
Who's
Bundy.
that, buddy?
He got it. Al Bundy.
Oh, that's very good. That's very good.
I said, he knows more than you think, this guy.
It was
He
the
knows what? He knows nothing about. I told you, he's stuck in the Dan Marino and the Who Dat era.
That's it.
But you know what? It doesn't matter. We appreciate. People are going to watch us there and go, I don't know if I think this. I don't think this is going to work out. But because they're probably wondering you don't know a lot. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. If you just do the blessing, please. I think people are going to be surprised next week when we come back.
Listen, next week, Father, can you bring out the specter that throws the holy water in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit? Can you bring the specter out and throw it at us? Do that next week, okay?
You want the bells too?
Yeah.
And what about the smoky thing?
The smoky thing, the bells. All right. What? I got to have props with you guys. All right.
Yeah. One time I was at church, Father Tony, and there was a new guy. You know this. You get the new guy right in the church, and he's a little cocky, and he thinks he knows everything, but you're like a veteran, and it's just like sports. The new guy comes in, he thinks he knows everything, the rookie, but the veteran knows more. So I was at this church, and there was the father that was there forever and ever, and he had the rookie there, and the guy was going to do the thing. What do they call the thing with the smoke? I don't even know. The smoke. What is it? The smoke.
Smoker.
They call it a smoker, like a barbecue. And he was in there, Tom, and he had too much smoke going. And people started coughing. He filled up the small church with so much smoke. I'm not kidding you. It was in the city, and people were choking. Yeah. And then this guy, this rookie, he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know, like, the procedure. He was going, like, off to the side, like crazy. And people were mad.
There's a learning curve with that thing, all right? You don't just go out there with it, and then the right amount of smoke comes out. You got to swing it the right way. It's in the wrist. You know what I'm saying? All right.
Okay. We got it.
Any other advice you can give us about our life and about talking sports and gambling?
Yeah, you know what? You guys, don't take it so seriously. You know what I'm saying? Relax. All right? Don't go crazy, all right? And when you make these bets, all right, don't get so emotional about them. You make your bets, you throw a little money down, you give a little to the church when you win. That's the most important part.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And you know what? Here's what I'd like to ask you guys. I appreciate you having me on, but when you publish this episode, do me a favor and just put my Venmo down at the inside the credits or whatever, because my Gumad needs a new Gulfstream. Okay, she doesn't like the old one. So if you guys, just a little
something. What color is this?
So are we sending it to your personal Venmo or the church Venmo?
You know what? Let's just make it easy. Send it to my personal Venmo. All right, we're gonna make it easy.
All right. You know what? I'll do anything to be
easy, Father.
I'll do anything to win bets and to beat all these so-called experts. This is going to be, people are going to be like, those guys are hot. Look how hot these guys are. And it's all because we're smart.
pray for you guys. I'm going to pray for these bets, and let's do a quick one more blessing in nomine Patris et Filii Spiritus Sancti. Okay, you guys.
All right, thank you, Father. Thank you, Father.
Thank you, Father Capolini. Tony Capolini, everybody. Father Tony Capolini, thank you so much.
Thank
Okay.
you guys for having me on.
All right. Good luck.
Stay
Thank you.
blessed.
Oh, you too. Adios.
All right. So